Welcome to Kiiroo TV. This is Kiiroo HQ. I'm Urban, and for today's guest, I have Vlad Sneg right here. Good morning, Vlad.
Good morning, Urban. Happy to be here today.
Nice. Good to have you here. Besides the weather, stuff is hot right here in the city, isn't it?
It is getting really hot. I could really feel that.
Nice.
I use Deo, so it's okay.
Oh, we got so did I. And even though we still have some stash right here, so don't worry. Even though it might look, we look like we're smelly, it isn't.
Technology didn't go so far yet, so it's okay. You don't feel it.
So, would you care to explain what it is that you do, Vlad?
Yeah, well, I'm a Stads poet, so I'm city poet in English. So I was born and raised in Moscow, but now I live in a beautiful city of Rotterdam in the south of Netherlands. Yeah, and I just write. I write about things that inspire me, about philosophy, politics, romance, erotic poems as well. So basically everything that really brings something to my soul.
Sounds good. And how long have you been doing this?
Years. Really, I think about 7-8 years I've been doing that already.
How did you get started with it? Was it Shakespeare?
No, it wasn't Shakespeare. I started when I was a kid, really, just sitting down and scribbling something, making a sense out of words. And that's why it became first a hobby, then passion, and now it's just really an essential part of my life. Yeah.
Sounds good. Any spoken word as well, or mostly only poems?
Mostly poems now, but I'm always open to widen my horizons.
Cool. Seems to me you're a very one dude that can easily improvise, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Mostly in Russian, of course. English is not that good yet, but I'm doing my best.
Well, luckily for us, you had the pleasure to do some stuff in English, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, today we will have some stuff in English.
Well, let's head into the news about the adult industry for this week.
Yeah.
Because there are some interesting news items as well. As a matter of fact, while we're doing the news items as well, in addition to that, my guest Vlad will add some poem to it to have his own expression and own perspective on it.
Absolutely right.
Cool. So, without further ado, let's head into the adult industry news. Because there's already a few interesting items that I've been checking out. For example, porn star wants to be buried inside of a remote control penis.
Wow.
Very original, if you
That's
ask me.
big news, I must say.
Yeah, so do I think. We're talking about porn star turned in politician Johnny Rockhart. Unfortunately, he's been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he wants to make sure that that his legacy lives on by doing something very original, because he wants to be buried inside a remote control penis. Now, would you do it?
Yeah, you think I think I really like this attitude of him. It's really cheerful attitude towards death, because we all die one day, and to do it in a really fun way, to a really memorable way, I think that's a good thing. So I think I would do that. Why not?
Also in a remote control penis, or would you have like an other type of body part as preference?
I think I would prefer to do it in a remote control ass, because it's close to the place from where we came to this world. So I think it's lots of symbolism in that, so we go back from where we came from.
Through the ass.
Yeah, I mean, almost from there.
Asses to asses, dust to dust, so what we'd say.
Yeah.
However, it's a quite interesting thing. He quoted himself, "I know there will be people who will contribute to it because they want to see the back of me. There will be those who contribute to it because they think it's absolutely hilarious." It's quite an historical moment, if you ask me.
It is, and I think there is no better way to end this news with a little poem.
Cool.
I want to be buried in a big fat penis, to laugh in the face of my flatmate Venus. I want to see her saying goodbye by kissing that vibrating piece of rubber with a greedy tear in her blue eye.
Sounds interesting to me. Can you have a round of applause, man?
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. On to the next item, which is a rather strange one if you ask me. Crossdresser posed as housewife to trick blindfolded men into sex acts for porn site.
Wow.
Which basically, if you ask me, non-consensual sex is never okay, right?
No, it's not. You know, sex is all about pleasure, about positive emotions. It's also good for your health. But this is really, to me, that guy's crossed the line, and quite significantly, you know. I would call him just a little bastard.
That's what I would say, but then again, like, it's an expressive way, but like I said, it will be easier to have the agreements of both parties on that, right?
Yeah, and you know, you never know what other people are into. So if you would be open about that and really ask to have, you know, sex for the porn site and ask permission of people, tape that, you never know whom you meet, even if the guy pretends to be straight or something, you know.
Isn't it strange to say that while we're living in such a modern time with so many freedom and so many expression about sex, that these type of events still happen? Or is it something that we have to keep in count that it will always happen like that?
Yeah, well, I would, you know, say that this is same level of crime as, you know, theft, I would say, or rape in a sense. So this would always happen, so we always have to stay alert to those kind of things. And our duty, I would say, as a society, just try to prevent those and really always stay on the positive, pleasurable side of sex.
Cool. Fortunately, the violator was arrested at his home in Homestead, Florida, and is now facing at least 5 charges over his alleged deception.
Well deserved.
Nice. Would you care to add something to that?
Yes, let's add a conclusion to this. I met an incredibly beautiful woman. She lured me with a female boobie. She said she had vagina and stuff. How surprised I was to see me fucking a dude, blindfolded, on a YouTube.
Impressive.
Yeah.
It's all about expression today, people. It's all about expression today.
It is.
So guys, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to this episode of Kiiroo TV at Kiiroo HQ. Now, as you just mentioned, your name is Vlad Sneg, and there's something interesting about the word Sneg. Would you care to elaborate about it?
Yeah, people really often ask me, so what does actually Sneg mean? Because it's actually a Russian word. So,
as far as I know it as dealing with going to a fast food shop and have a snack. But yeah. I don't have the idea that it's the same idea.
Almost. Sneg means snow.
Ah, interesting.
The white one that's falling from the...
So we're not talking about the stuff we put up in our nose or something.
That's also very often people ask me about that, but no, you know, I'm the one that puts vodka in my nose.
Vodka in the nose?
Yeah, that really helps creative process, you know, it's really burning your soul.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't noticed that before, but like I'm a real vodka liker, so...
Yeah. Don't try to do it at home, huh?
Please do not do it.
Please don't.
Please don't. Well, on to the next item about the adult industry. Because family time trumps having sex. It's suggested that a lot of teenagers are becoming less sexual active because they tend to spend more time with families. Would almost like suggest that they might become very... How would I put it?
Virgins.
No, not virgins. That sounds... No, not like that. But it's more like the idea, like... Seems like they rather have, like, the romantic idea about, like, having sex.
Or it's about masturbation.
Perhaps.
Could be both.
What's your view on it?
Yeah, I think that basically lots of people now have less and less contact with real life, especially the youngsters. You know, they always sit with their mobile phones at home very often, and they don't socialize that much. And you know, in the past, people really learned to do these first sexual steps at school, at the discos, you know, also for young people.
How was your experience?
Well, my first sex was when I was 16, and I think it was after school party. So you see, I didn't have any Tinder yet back then. Neither smartphone. I had a mobile phone though. Yeah.
Seems familiar. Yeah. One of my first sexual experience was also after a school party, so I know all about the school parties.
Such good memories.
That's where the magic happens, isn't it?
Yeah. For a teenager, they miss a lot on that.
So it turns out that teenagers are becoming less likely to have sex preferring to spend time with their families and having romantic relationships online. A study suggests. So it turns out on a survey with 1,000 responses between 16 and 18 years old, turns out they rather spend more time with their family and build a relationship on romantic basis instead of on sexual basis. It's quite positive if you ask me.
Well, I would say that's good news. Basically, that people are more interested, let's say, in the romance part, because it means you're more interested in the soul rather than the body.
But isn't it interesting? Because especially with the growing developments of social media, I don't have to give examples of the type of social media, but especially the evolvement around it. Like, it's interesting that a lot of people are, especially in that age, are more into meeting people and like build a relationship instead of having sex. Because if I would check myself out during that age, that was the last thing that was on my mind. How about you?
Yeah, well, you know what I want to say here, especially doubting a bit of the reliability of the research from a psychological point of view. If you ask teens, so do you prefer to have sex or spend time with your family, and you were 16, and maybe this survey was asked in the street or, among your peers, you would probably say, of course I prefer to spend time with my family. So it also depends how they conduct this research, because social influence has a really strong effect on your answers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's why we see now, we are teenagers, we like to sit at home and spend time with my mother instead of going out and meet girls or guys. So how is that realistic? That's a question.
I understand. So how was your experience during that time while you were 16 or 18?
Yeah, so I was just a kid that went out to the school parties, meeting girls, walking hand in hand, and it was always a bit of a game to show that you date most beautiful girl at school, in the class, everyone is jealous. It was just really good memories, I would say, of the first steps, sexual steps.
Cool. Would you add something in addition in a...
Yeah. So here I would say modern teenagers don't want to have sex. They would rather play games, as their brain is so incredibly complex. If teens didn't drink at 16 in the past, I would never come to this world so fast. My mom was 21 when I was born, so...
Ah, cool. So you're coming off young parents as well?
Yeah. My parents are very young, and I really like that, because like my mom and my dad like my friends, so we can really hang out with them, go to the club, chill.
Shout out to the young moms and dads, by the way.
Go out with your kids.
Which I can also talk about, because I was when I got born, my mom was 20, and I'm the middle one.
Maybe we're brothers.
Could be. Fist bump. Onward with the next news item. Snapchat pulls the plug on Snapcash. Xbiz.com reported that Snapchat, which teamed up with the mobile company Square in November 2014 to roll out Snapcash for easy payments, has decided to pull the plug on that service on Thursday. You familiar with those?
No, I'm really, also with the Snapchat, actually not that much. Have black and white Nokia. So.
I see. Actually, to be honest, I always made a fun out of it. I always told them, like, you need to pay me for Snapchat, because I was working at a place, and all of the youngsters were into Snapchat. They were all like snapping, and then sometimes you easily get secretly snapped or something like that. And I told them, like, listen, I don't have a Snapchat account, so if you want me on Snapchat, you're paying me for it.
Yeah, that's logical. And on the business side of things, they cannot compete with PayPal. Let's say really big, cash payment systems.
In addition to the item, Snapchat said, "We're thankful for all the Snapchatters who use Snapcash for the past 4 years and for Square's partnership. Though they didn't officially address why they were ending it, most likely it's due to all the available services on mobile, because it's a dog-eat-dog world out there."
I think they deserved a goodbye poem.
Yeah?
Yeah. I fell in love with the webcam girl, but in the right moment, I couldn't turn my Snapcash on. How much sufferings came to my life. Again, I'm all alone in the dark.
Man. Such deepness so early in the morning. Man, impressive.
So much pain in that.
It's all improvised, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, it's really all like this. I never well, I don't have enough time just to sit and elaborate on that. It's all written very quickly, usually from one wave of inspiration that came in.
All right. Mind you, though, that normally the poems are always in Russian, so I think it deserves an extra point of applause for the fact that you've been doing it in English for us, man.
Thanks.
On a Friday morning, hot as it already
exactly.
is. Cool. So far for the news items. Onwards to the next one. What we're going to do is, since we're talking about poems, which is also the topic of today, because we're going to talk about romance, intimacy, and eroticism. And since we're dealing with our smooth poetry artist right here, Vlad Sneg. Vlad, would you care to give us one of your poems? And
Yeah. Well, as you know, I mostly write in Russian, so I would give you now a rather short one with one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
It has one rather international word.
Yeah.
And it's really relevant to our topic of today. So your task today would be recognize this word. So listen attentively, okay?
Cool. I'll do my best.
Okay, the poem is called Existence.
Right.
Вокзал, Кукундер, северо-западный плинтус, зассанный подъезд, Машкин Cunnilingus, апокрифичный, серый, печальный, не то пиздец, не то воздух окаянный. Это вам не просто снежный стишочек, а не колонизационный, подвыподвернутый словесный поносец. Did you spot the word?
I spotted the word, actually, as a matter of fact, but I had the idea that I spotted more words. Or maybe it's due to what I was hearing.
Okay.
But the word that I was spotting was Cunnilingus.
Yeah, that's true. That's great.
Interesting.
That's great. And it was Mashkin, which means Cunnilingus of Maria. Or to Maria.
Ah, is it?
Yeah.
Well, luckily for us.
And for Maria.
All right. So, would you care to elaborate what the idea was about this poem?
Yeah, well, basically, this really abstract one, and really, I would say, an avant-garde style. That's what I really often do, is just really mix up words, which I really like in poetry. People really think for themselves, and they decide what they see in this poem. Some people see political podtext, some people see more philosophical podtext, and some just enjoy it, nice words, and this expression and feeling you receive, because many people don't understand, of course, Russian.
No, not at all. Because, for me, it was more like, man, he could be swearing about whatever he is right now.
Yeah.
But, the idea, the delivery was, so strict that it really sounded like, man, it does sound like he's complaining about that, something like that.
Yeah, you see? So that's your personal perception, which is great. And that's what I want to deliver. It's the same way as we listen to music, Sometimes you listen to French music, Italian music.
Yeah.
You have no idea what they're talking about.
No, but you're feeling it.
Yeah.
You're feeling it.
Yeah, you feel the rhyme. Same with poetry, same with literature.
Awesome. So what is more fun to you? Creating and writing new poetry or performing poetry live?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I really, really like...
Man, choose.
I would say performance. I really like performing poetry.
Why?
Yeah, you can add more colors to what you have written. Because if it's on the paper, person can read it his own way, cannot really see what was there. So when it's really cited by me, people really see what do I add to this poem. And I did very often, let's say in the streets, in Russia and in Rotterdam as well. So that's I really enjoy that.
Awesome. So it's obvious that you already performed here.
Yeah, it's a bit more difficult here, as I said, because most of my poems are in Russian. I try to write something in Dutch as well. I have a couple of poems in Dutch.
Really?
And yeah. So I participated in the International Poetry Festival in Rotterdam this year. There was really a stand-up, let's say, Via de Wiet Street. So we had really stand-up place where you can come and cite your poems. And I found really enjoyable experience because I get really positive feedback from people.
Would you ever do it in competitive way? Like, for example, the writing for a tournament or something like that?
Yeah, well, I've never considered that yet. It could be a nice option.
Maybe we just created a new idea right here, man.
Yeah, could be. But, sometimes I want my poetry perceived in a really intimate way. People have to, perceive it, to overthink it, to really get the feeling. If there's a right setting, I must say, then it might work. But not in a really hardcore, let's say, tournament.
So that's kind of like you want people to like analyze your poems.
Yeah.
But during live performance, do you think there's the possibility for them to have that time?
I would say do the emotional analysis. Just purely understand, okay, I just heard it. What do I feel about it? And that's enough at this stage.
It's funny that you mentioned it because that was my kind of next question.
Yeah.
What kind of emotion do you want your audience to experience most?
Yeah, that depends on the poetry. So if we talk about more romantic, erotic, intimate poetry, is a feeling of, poetic orgasm. I have to say. So it's basically we really feel it somewhere down there and high there. So that's the purpose of this kind of poetry. But if we talk about something more generic, societal, then it's really want people to get inspired by this, I would say.
I have a question. Did it ever occur to you, like when you did a poem, that you would easily see like someone is touched in such a way that it kind of refers almost to orgasm?
Yeah, well, Russian women, for example, I have a lot of experience with them. They're very sensitive towards literature, romanticism, so they require you to give them flowers, to give them presents.
Is that so?
Yeah, it is so. They're
really old-fashioned. So that's what
they are old-fashioned, and they would expect always you to pay in the restaurant. Everything it's half is no go. If it's half, no sex.
Well,
ever again.
Sorry to bother you there, but then do explain me. Isn't that a bit sexist? Because at the same time, there are the women that want to show that they're independent and that they can take care of themselves. But when it comes to that, then it's already old-fashioned. Which I think, my own opinion, it is some kinds a bit unfair, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, here comes a cultural difference. So Russian women...
No, I don't mind about the culture because I do understand that.
Yeah.
But like from my own perspective, like for example, if I would take a lady out to eat, well, by all means, I would pay. But it has something more to do with my personal... preference. It doesn't have anything to do with the environment that I grew up in or with the norm or principles that they're having right here. Because basically those principles, sometimes they can be the exact opposite for what I lived through, So
well, here's the case, so for some women, it might seem offensive that you pay for them because do you imply that I cannot pay for myself?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a strong independent woman, so I will pay for you. I will split that. So that's kind of, let's say, attitude of many women, which I really appreciate. It saves lots of money for me.
Which, by the way, I can also say, like, even though I respect that opinion, I'm like, man, I'm taking you out to eat, so...
Man, I'm taking you out to eat.
Yeah, exactly. So next time it will be on you.
Yeah.
That's what I always do. I'm like, no, man, it's all cool. I got this. Next time.
Yeah, but
or you pay for dessert, for example.
As I said, with Russian girls, in 90% of the case, very different. So they really expect you to pay because that's their personal choice. They really want to be, let's say, a woman, and
they want to be spoiled.
They want to be spoiled, and they enjoy that. Cool. That's the difference. And that's a personal choice. You can be either a strong, independent woman, or you can be a really fragile woman that wants to be taken care of, bringing flowers, presents, Mercedes, diamonds, Porsche, and it's never enough.
But for those who are into Russian women, like, if they want to do it the right way, they need to pay. Because in 90%, they're not going to get laid, or they're not going home run for it once they're not paying.
Depends how much vodka she had. Yeah, but then you still have to pay for vodka, So that's really the case.
All right, cool. Were romance and eroticism always a part of your style, or did something specific make you venture down that path?
It hasn't been a part of my style, I must say, but specific moments in your life and experience really bring you to this path. It's basically when you're really in love, when you experience something like really an orgasm, really pleasurable experience.
So it got started out of something positive.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think sex is beautiful, romance is beautiful, and it really can be presented in beautiful words.
Are you single right now?
Yes, I am.
So for lucky listeners and viewers, if you like a bit of romance or intimacy or even eroticism, look out Sneg.
You know where to find me.
In Rotterdam.
In Rotterdam.
Cool. So, would you care to give an anecdote about what specifically made you change about the way of writing poems, for example? Because you already started it was more around falling in love, but like, care to give more details?
Yeah, well, when you really, really, it was experience in my life, so it was crazy in love, and it didn't work out.
Ooh, that sounds like Beyonce.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you're talking crazy in love, man.
Well, I'm sharing you a very personal story. Very personal, very personal.
I'm listening.
So it was a really big love of mine, and she was about 20 years older than me. She was 42.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she was married. So we
there's a Dutch phrase, as they call it, and even though we're talking English, I'm going to pronounce it because it really reminds me of them. It's called op een oude fiets moet je het leren.
Oh yeah.
And basically what that means is like the only way to learn is by driving an old bike.
I learned hell a lot. I really recommend everyone to find a experienced woman and at least to try that, because they know a lot.
It's funny that you mentioned it. I do have to add something to that too, because last episode we were talking, and the guest that I had that time was very interesting because we had the same type of ideas in common when it came to like fantasies about sexual women, and turns out we really like the older experienced women.
Yeah.
The males, but also the cougars, man. Team cougar all the way.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, they know what they want.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's also experience. If you do something work related, you get better in that.
Yeah.
The same with time. If you had lots of sex in your life, you get better in it.
Exactly.
It's just there's a learning curve.
So you see yourself as a wine instead of like a nice drink of Bacardi.
No, I would say it's wine indeed.
Wine.
With years, it's getting better.
And with years it gets
better. that's definitely the case. So coming back to the story, basically it really inspired me to a lot of erotic poetry, because she was into that. Mm-hmm. She was really intimate woman, let's say, very romantic one. So, and I moved to Holland back in the time. She stayed in Russia. We could talk 8 hours on the phone, and she was saying what she was wearing, that she meets me, that she can't have sex with her husband anymore because she only thinks about me, and blah blah blah. And she was really touched by my poems.
So she was already in a relationship while
she was married for 20 years.
She was married for 20 years.
That's exactly the age difference that we had.
Dude, sounds like a home record to me, man.
That was intense. But she looked like she's 16 and behaved the same. She was really, really young soul. She's very young soul. So I was a daddy.
So it matches.
Yeah, it was a really perfect match.
All right. Now I'm going to ask you something, which is just a joke, but it's not the reason why you came to the Netherlands, right? You had to flee for the dude because he found out or something?
No. That's not the case. Well, I think... he probably knew, but he couldn't do much.
All right, cool.
Yeah, what can you do in this situation?
Well, like, for example, cuckold?
Yeah, well, I don't think that would help, but yeah.
So, Vlad, tell me, is your romantic poetry an abstraction of general sexual themes and topics, or does your own sexuality, and gender influence your work as well?
I would reply to this one with a poem.
I'm all ears.
That feeling I will keep in my heart forever. First time when my tongue touched a piece of heaven. So tender, so innocent were you that time. How cruel was life to you, now that I see a worn out who.
Wow. That's certainly on the border, man.
Painful love.
Yeah. Man, explain. Elaborate, man.
Yeah, so as you see, this comes from personal experience. When my heart was broken by a girl, she left me to her sugar daddy, in a sense. And I met her 5 years after. And, when we were together, she was really young, cheerful girl, and now she looks like she's, 20 years older or something. She's really... What I said, my poem, worn out. Worn out. Yeah, I don't know what she had to experience, but and that's a bit, people can recognize somehow situations when they have similar, let's say, experience in their lives when they read that. So that's example from a personal experience. But sometimes it's something general, about how we deal with tragedies, now love, how we deal with happiness, all those kind of topics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do you ever censor yourself when write romantic or erotic work?
Yes. So as you know, I write a lot in Russian, and there it's quite sensitive towards really, let's say, sexual themes. It's okay to say certain words, when we talk about erotic themes, but when it's crossed the line, goes really into physiological, let's say, peculiarities, when it really goes to some physics, that is not perceived well by the audience.
So that's why you filter out some stuff sometimes.
Yeah, some stuff I do filter out, or I find, a nicer word, because you can always find a synonym or something, to compare with.
All right.
Yeah.
But then, do you think of how your inner circle will react to your work before you publish or recite anything?
Well, I have core fans, people who really follow me, who really support me in everything, so they don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And, you get honest feedback. Sometimes you really cross the line where you went too far, and it's nice to hear that feedback. I listen to what people say, and it's also a learning curve. Then next time I come up with something really, really, let's say, next level poetry.
Speaking of those fans, by the way, do your fans take liberties with you because you talk so openly about romance and eroticism?
Yeah. So the people who really follow me and wait for every new poem to be posted, they're really quite positive about that. So they don't mind at all if there's really some sensitive topics touched. That's okay.
So it's acceptable for them to be provocative in your work, or do you think it's more important to honor norms, ethics, and feelings?
No, most of my works are really provocative, on a very different level. So basically, it can be about societal problems, it could be about love, anything, but it always brings you to think about something.
I see. So dealing with the fans, did it ever happen that one of them crossed the border with you at some level, that it was out of your comfort zone?
Well, it never happened to me, because people understand that's art, that's from art and expression. So I think they might implement something in their own lives, but it's never projected to me, because it's just my vision, my concept, and people don't project it to me as a person who cites that, let's say.
Let's ask an evil question.
Yeah.
What would happen if it happened that somebody would cross a border or try to be sexually aroused by one of your lyrics? And it happened to be someone who looks a lot like, let's for example say, Anna Kunikova.
Okay, well, since I'm single, as I said, I would probably take advantage of the situation. And basically, I think that's a beautiful situation overall. So someone gets really inspired, gets really into you, about the art you create. Why not? Let's just do that.
Credits to the honesty.
Credits to Anna Kurnikova.
And if you don't like the way she looks, how about that?
Depends how much vodka I had. And it depends, Again, sometimes you can really touch someone with personality. It's not about looks, it's about your inner energy. So if you really, really have this strong charisma, it's okay, even if you don't have the best looks.
And if they're sexually aggressive beyond the point, is it acceptable for you as well?
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
No borders then?
No borders.
Awesome. Cool. Now, one more question. Do you think it's acceptable to be provocative in your work, or is it more important to honor norms, ethics, and feelings?
Yeah, I think the most important is to deliver the message you want to deliver, So it depends on the theme. But most of the times my poems are quite provocative, and they really challenge people to think about status quo, about what's happening. And I think it's normal, because every year we have to reevaluate, are those norms are valid and who created them? So,
True.
Yeah.
There's something to say about that as well, because me being a music artist, one of those struggles that I always used to deal with when I used to record at the beginning, a few years ago, was at one point, I have a brother, and right now he's 15.
Yeah.
But when he was younger, I was always like, man, I would love to do some stuff about that, but it was more or less like I was trying to limit myself due to the fact, man, I do have to set an example for my brother or something like that. But at one point, he was old enough, so luckily for me, that started to drift away. But I can understand that sometimes you might be limited, even though to your own entourage, if not to ethic and norms and values.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the most important for me is not to be offensive, So I don't want to offend anyone's beliefs as well. So basically, it's always in the line where you can think about it, but it's not really offensive. That's really taboo for me, and also in my works.
No, but at the end of the day, you're trying to trigger some food for thought, right? Especially within poems.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a bad idea to be provocative at sometimes, right?
It is provocative, but it's touching the surface, so people should really get it.
Now, as he just mentioned, find Sneg at sneg.poet at Instagram. Now, would you please care to give us one last detail of some romantic, nice poem? For example, in Russian.
It'll be just a short sentence.
Nice.
Дорогая, я жду тебя. Позвони мне.
Couldn't have ended it myself better.
Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's giveaway. This week we're giving away the Kiiroo Onyx 2. Kiiroo Onyx 2 is a really discreet and powerful masturbator that simulates intercourse in real time. Want to stand a chance to win? All you have to do is like, comment, and subscribe. And next week, we will choose one lucky winner to take this bad boy home with them.